He was dismissed from Men's Health after publishing content that mocked the Girl Scouts. Not long after that, he was fired from Stuff magazine for an outrageous stunt in which he hired people of short stature to deliberately disrupt a major corporate conference. Later, his contract at Maxim UK quietly expired and was never renewed after the magazine's circulation sharply declined during his leadership. By the year 2006, Greg Gutfeld had effectively been pushed out of every major publication he had ever been trusted to run. Within media circles, he was considered damaged goods. The establishment had decided he was finished, written off as unhireable and unmanageable. Then came an unexpected phone call from Fox News with an offer that sounded more like a joke than an opportunity. They wanted him to host a television show airing at 3 a.m., a time slot so lifeless that executives openly joked his only viewers would be speed dealers, nursing mothers, and prison inmates. No one expected the show to survive more than 3 months. Yet fast forward to today, and that same man, once labeled a reject, now attracts more viewers than Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Fallon, and Jimmy Kimmel combined. Without ever appearing on traditional late-night television, he became the undisputed king of late night. That transformation was not the result of luck or timing. It was the product of repeated firings, personal chaos, a chance meeting with a Russian model in Portugal, the cultivation of a loyal audience of insomniacs, and a complete reinvention of what an American talk show could be. To understand how a man who could not keep a job longer than 2 years became the most watched personality in his time slot, it's necessary to return to the beginning, where the destructive pattern first took shape. Gregory John Gutfeld was born on September 12, 1964, in San Mateo, California. His mother, Jackie, raised the children in a Catholic household that emphasized discipline and structure. As a young man, Greg attended Junipero Serra High School, an all-boys Catholic school that would later boast alumni such as NFL quarterback Tom Brady and baseball icon Barry Bonds. In the mid-1980s, he enrolled at the University of California, Berkeley, a choice that would shape his worldview in ways no one could have predicted. Berkeley's deeply liberal environment did not convert him. Instead, it repelled him. Gutfeld would later explain that he became conservative by being around liberals, and libertarian by being around conservatives. What bothered him most about both groups, he noticed, was the same shared flaw: moralizing, telling others how they should live. He rejected the purity tests of both tribes and wanted no allegiance to either. After graduating in 1987 with a degree in English, Gutfeld secured an internship at the American Spectator. There, he ran errands for the magazine's notoriously difficult editor, R. Emmett Tyrrell. The experience gave him an insider's view of conservative media, but it also revealed a harsh reality: magazines paid poorly. Financial pressure pushed him toward men's lifestyle publications instead. He began working as a staff writer at Prevention magazine, a health-focused publication. Ironically, during this period, he began drinking heavily and using drugs at what colleagues described as a prodigious rate. The party-heavy lifestyle would follow him for years. Eventually, he moved to Men's Health, the dominant authority on fitness and masculinity during the 1990s. By 1999, at just 35 years old, Gutfeld had risen to editor-in-chief of one of the most successful men's magazines in America. Then it all collapsed. He was fired. The official explanation varied depending on who told the story. He had published pieces mocking Girl Scouts, cat lovers, and even his own boss. The parent company decided he was more trouble than he was worth. One media outlet later described his career trajectory as both impressive and depressing. He repeatedly climbed to the top of the ladder, only to fall all the way back down. Instead of learning restraint from failure, Gutfeld leaned into chaos. His next stop was Stuff magazine, a publication centered on gadgets, women, and everything young men were supposed to find exciting. Under Gutfeld's leadership, the magazine exploded in popularity, growing its circulation from 750,000 to 1.2 million readers. He pushed the content to the edge of absurdity, embracing shock and irreverence. Advertisers tolerated it because the numbers kept climbing. Then came the moment that permanently defined his magazine career. In April 2003, the American Society of Magazine Editors hosted a conference titled "What Makes a Magazine Buzz?" Gutfeld decided to answer that question literally. He hired 3 actors of short stature through a casting agency and instructed them to disrupt the event as aggressively as possible. They crunched potato chips loudly, allowed phones to ring repeatedly, and shouted conversations while industry leaders spoke on stage. Security eventually removed them. The stunt made national headlines, including the New York Times. Gutfeld was fired immediately. For most people, that would have been the end. No major American publication would touch him. His reputation had become radioactive. But being fired in the United States wasn't enough for Gutfeld. He chose exile. In 2004, he moved to London, where Maxim UK needed an editor-in-chief. Either the British executives hadn't heard about the incident, or they didn't care. Gutfeld accepted the position and crossed the Atlantic. During his first week, he attended a company conference in Portugal, where editors from more than 30 countries gathered. That trip changed his life. At the hotel, he noticed a woman staying in the adjacent room. Elena Musa was tall, dark-haired, and working as a photo editor for Maxim Russia. She had previously been a runway model before transitioning into magazine production. Gutfeld noticed her immediately and later said he knew the moment he saw her. "That's my wife." She wanted nothing to do with him. For 3 days, he pursued her with persistence he later admitted was foolish. She remained uninterested and dismissive. Eventually, he asked her on a real date, and to his surprise, she agreed. Something shifted. Within weeks, Elena relocated from Russia to London to be with him. Just 5 months later, they married in a small civil ceremony in New York. There were few photos. Both valued privacy over spectacle. Gutfeld later wrote about Elena in his 2008 book, describing how she pushed him to explore London instead of hiding indoors watching reality television. She brought stability into a life defined by turbulence. But stability could not save his career. Under Gutfeld's leadership, Maxim UK struggled. Circulation declined. When his contract expired in 2006, the company chose not to renew it. At 41 years old, newly married and unemployed again, Gutfeld returned to New York with no clear future. Elena began rebuilding her own career, eventually becoming a successful fashion stylist and attending Parsons School of Design, where she graduated in 2017. But in 2006, both were starting from zero. Desperate, Greg accepted what looked like a humiliating job, becoming a blogger for the Huffington Post, a platform that represented everything he despised about liberal media. Yet founder Arianna Huffington welcomed conservative voices, and Gutfeld saw an opportunity to cause disruption from within. His blog posts became infamous for their savage satire. He mocked fellow contributors, attacked Arianna herself, and turned comment sections into war zones. One of those comment battles caught the attention of another blogger named Andy Levi. The two discovered a shared sensibility, dark humor, sharp satire, and a willingness to offend anyone for a good joke. Someone else was watching too. In late 2006, Fox News called. They wanted to launch a late-night show. Gutfeld didn't hesitate. He admitted he was broke and would do anything. The pitch was strange. The show would air at 2 a.m., later moved to 3 a.m., when almost no one was awake. Gutfeld joked that the audience consisted of speed dealers, nursing mothers, and inmates, who, incidentally, wrote many letters. Red Eye premiered on February 5, 2007. There were no rehearsals. The team practiced in the green room while drinking. The atmosphere felt more like a house party than a television studio. Executives found the content too edgy and pushed it even later into the night. Instead of killing the show, that decision saved it. In those forgotten hours, Red Eye developed a cult following. The format broke every rule of cable news. Pain lists were introduced with absurd praise. Politics, pop culture, and nonsense blended freely. Nothing was sacred, not even Fox News itself. The humor was dark, absurd, and unlike anything else on television. Bill Schultz, a former colleague from the Stuff magazine days, stepped into the role of Greg Gutfeld's designated on-air sidekick. Along with Andy Levi, the three men formed an unlikely but highly effective trio. Their chemistry was strange on paper but electric on screen. Levi served as the sharp-edged snark engine, delivering deadpan sarcasm with precision. Schultz embraced the role of the lovable underdog, often playing the clueless but endearing loser. Overseeing it all was Gutfeld himself, presiding over the madness like a mischievous ringmaster who thrived on disorder and unpredictability. Adding to the show's odd charm was Gutfeld's mother, Jackie, who became a recurring presence on Red Eye. Gutfeld jokingly gave her the title of senior correspondent, explaining that the humor came from the fact that she was elderly. Her actual assignment was simple but effective. She watched Fox News throughout the day and then reported back on what she saw. Jackie frequently complained that the women on television wore skirts that were far too short. Gutfeld would fire back with the observation that many other viewers seemed to appreciate those skirts. Their back-and-forth exchanges revealed a genuine and affectionate mother-son dynamic that audiences found refreshingly real. Earlier in life, Gutfeld had been embarrassed to introduce his friends to his parents. Ironically, as an adult, he discovered that those same friends now preferred spending time with Jackie rather than with him. She possessed a blunt, no-nonsense authenticity that resonated deeply with viewers. More importantly, she supported everything her son attempted, even when his ideas appeared reckless or destined to fail. That unwavering support became part of the emotional backbone of the show. By all conventional standards, Red Eye should never have succeeded. It aired at 3 a.m., had almost no budget, dealt with intoxicated cameramen, and selected topics that seemed entirely random. Nothing about the production suggested it would attract an audience. And yet, against all expectations, the ratings steadily climbed. The show began outperforming primetime cable news programs despite airing in the dead of night, when most people assumed no one was watching. That unexpected success led to a major turning point in July 2011, when Fox News offered Gutfeld a much larger opportunity. The network launched a new daytime program called The Five, built around 5 rotating hosts who discussed news and politics every weekday at 5 p.m. Gutfeld was selected as one of the 5 commentators. The show quickly became a phenomenon, making television history as the first non-primetime program to rank number 1 in both total viewers and the key demographic of adults aged 25 to 54. Suddenly, Gutfeld was appearing in front of millions of viewers instead of the few thousand who tuned in at 3 a.m. Despite this massive leap in exposure, he continued hosting Red Eye, juggling both shows simultaneously for nearly 4 additional years. Eventually, the workload became unsustainable. In February 2015, Gutfeld announced that he would be leaving Red Eye to focus on a new venture. The overnight show had fulfilled its purpose. It proved that Greg Gutfeld could hold an audience when no one believed anyone was watching. Fox News was now ready to see what he could do with a legitimate time slot. That next chapter began on May 31, 2015, with the launch of The Greg Gutfeld Show, a weekly Saturday night program airing at 10 p.m. The format blended political satire with variety show elements. Gutfeld delivered monologues, interviewed newsmakers, and hosted a rotating panel of regular contributors. Among them were comedian Kat Timpf, who brought libertarian insight and razor-sharp humor, and professional wrestler Tyrus, whose intimidating appearance contrasted with unexpectedly thoughtful commentary. For 6 years, the show aired exclusively on weekends while Gutfeld continued making daily appearances on The Five. He worked relentlessly, building an audience that followed him faithfully from one program to another. Meanwhile, late-night hosts on broadcast networks barely acknowledged his existence. They dismissed a Saturday night Fox News show as irrelevant and non-competitive. That complacency shattered in 2021. Fox News announced that The Greg Gutfeld Show would move to weeknights and be rebranded simply as Gutfeld. The program would air at 11 p.m. Eastern, placing it in direct competition with Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Fallon, and Jimmy Kimmel. Industry experts predicted disaster. Many questioned how a cable news comedy show could compete with long-established broadcast giants, or how a conservative comedian could pull viewers away from decades of late-night tradition shaped by Jon Stewart and his successors. The answer came quickly and decisively. By August 2021, Gutfeld had surpassed The Late Show with Stephen Colbert in ratings. Averaging more than 2 million viewers per night, it outperformed every competitor on both broadcast and cable television. The man who once struggled at 3 a.m. now dominated the 11 p.m. hour. The former reject had become the king, and the numbers continued to rise. By the end of 2021, the combined viewership of Gutfeld and The Five averaged more than 5 million viewers. In October 2022, Gutfeld achieved the highest-rated episode of his career, drawing 2.5 million viewers in a single night, numbers no other late-night program could match. In June 2023, Fox moved the show to 10 p.m. Eastern, meaning it technically no longer competed in the traditional late-night category. Critics accused the network of cheating, arguing that a 10 p.m. program should not be compared to shows airing at 11:30. Gutfeld ignored the criticism. He cared only about the audience, and that audience continued to grow. The show's success reflected broader shifts in American media consumption. Traditional late-night television had become increasingly political, often framing conservative viewers as adversaries. Gutfeld offered a different approach. While Democrats took most of the punches, both parties were fair game when deserved. More importantly, the show felt raw and authentic in ways that polished broadcast productions no longer did. The Weekly Standard once called him the most dangerous man on television, And unlike many media figures, Gutfeld's work was genuinely subversive, a metaphorical stink bomb lobbed into faculty lounges, newsrooms, Hollywood studios, and non-profit boardrooms across the country. Gutfeld did not find his audience by chasing trends or reinventing himself. He succeeded by being exactly who he had always been, a troublemaker who had been fired from nearly every respectable job he ever held until he finally landed somewhere that valued chaos. Even he did not predict how the later chapters of his life would unfold. In December 2024, Gutfeld shocked longtime viewers by announcing that he had become a father for the first time at age 60. He and his wife, Elena, welcomed a daughter named Mira. The announcement came during an episode of The Five, where Gutfeld joked about his daughter's powerful lungs and his plans to teach her 3 languages. After 20 years of marriage with no children, he became a first-time parent at an age when most men were thinking about grandchildren. The intensely private man, who rarely discussed his wife on air, suddenly revealed an entirely new side of himself. This personal milestone coincided with continued professional dominance. By 2025, Gutfeld remained the most watched program in its competitive category. Broadcast rivals struggled to reach 2 million viewers while Gutfeld consistently exceeded 3 million. The late-night landscape had been reshaped by someone the industry once deemed unfit for television. The contrast with his competitors underscored the point. Traditional broadcast late-night shows reportedly cost around $100 million per year to produce. Gutfeld operated with only a fraction of those resources and embraced his scrappy roots, never attempting to match the glossy production values of Colbert or Fallon. His long-held philosophy about failure proved prophetic. He often said that getting fired was the best thing that could happen to someone. People believe termination signals the end of a career, but in reality, it often leads somewhere better. Gutfeld lived that belief repeatedly, turning every firing into a stepping stone rather than a dead end. In hindsight, a clear pattern emerged. Each dismissal pushed him closer to an environment where his specific talents could flourish. Men's Health demanded conformity. Stuff wanted sanity. Maxim UK wanted circulation growth. None of them wanted a provocateur willing to hire dwarfs to disrupt industry conferences. Fox News, particularly the 3 a.m. time slot no one cared about, finally gave him the freedom to be himself. Throughout his rise, Elena remained largely out of public view. She continued her fashion career, appearing occasionally on his Instagram while avoiding his television programs entirely. Their relationship endured precisely because she stayed out of the spotlight. When Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, Gutfeld used his Fox News connections to help evacuate Elena's mother from Lviv to Poland. He later shared footage of their reunion on air, one of the rare moments when his personal and professional worlds intersected publicly. At the height of his career, Gutfeld occupied a position no one could have imagined when he sat broke in a Chelsea bar in 2006. The man who once joked that his original audience consisted of criminals and exhausted parents had built something durable and expansive. His viewers now included not just Fox loyalists, but also independents and even Democrats who found traditional broadcast options stale. The numbers tell part of the story: over 3 million nightly viewers, more than 5 million combined across both shows, and ratings dominance that forced CBS to reconsider the future of its late-night franchise. But statistics alone do not explain why it worked. The real answer lies in Gutfeld's long pattern of failure and reinvention. He never tried to become what the industry wanted. He was fired for being difficult, for crossing lines, for refusing to soften his instincts. Eventually, he found a place where those same qualities became strengths rather than liabilities. From speed dealers and nursing mothers to the largest audience in late-night television, Greg Gutfeld proved that sometimes the 3 a.m. reject becomes the undisputed king, not by changing who he is, but by finally finding an audience that wanted exactly what he had been offering all along.